Hello and welcome to this video. Now, we'll be talking about how to best survive Path of Exile 2 in the coming patch, but just to give an overview of what I'm going to talk about so you can sort of get an idea and skip ahead to the parts where you're interested. 1. Deflection will be strong for evasion based. 2. Warrior isn't dead. I believe the optimal build will probably be a armor breaking ignite thorns base using some of the new skills and mechanics. Strongest will be energy shield as in tankiness. Minions will possibly be the more tanky version of stuff, except some of the minion interaction stuff, but energy shield, tanky. The meta builds will probably cost you 200 to 500 divines to kit out endgame with all the new stuff. And the abyssal stuff that they're added will probably benefit characters that can clear with skills which can take down bosses as well. So not really single target only, like a single target / clear. Okay, now the little highlight things done, let's get into it a bit more in depth. Deflection. Why I think it's going to be strong is 1, the evasion based characters don't need to really spec into it. The specking in part of it, I'll bring up the tree. I'm out of the way. As you can see, evasion rating is mainly here. I expect the deflection little bits to be in between this travel node path and this travel node path, but I expect more end game for you to have to go into the actual specking into it to get the optimal amount of it out of it. But because you can pretty much just go evasion and still get the deflection, when it procs you'll take less damage and you don't actually have to do anything other than play the game as if you would in 0.2. So I expect it to be fairly strong for what it is. Now the warriors, yes, a lot of things changed. Scattering plate got nerfed, shatter, whatever it is, got nerfed a bit, but to add in different sort of things. Block, yes, it went down to 50% instead of 75, but that doesn't really matter. The thorns based build is still there. They added a unique that does some cold damage because they're trying to bring cold into it a bit more. But the hammers with the war cries and the AoE explosion type thing, I would expect the optimal way would be to do all the hammers, war cry, get ignite, and then do your armor breaking thorns stuff and like rotate that. Because obviously, Path of Exile 2, they're really into combo. So every now and then, you'll have to redo your hammers, war cry, and then your thorns is pretty much passively taking down the damage whilst that's all happening. The other thing that might, I don't think it will be all that good, but a endurance charge stacking Ancestral War Chief totem build if the totems can be like a heavy stun machine. So you're constantly doing heavy stuns. You've got the new gem that gives you an energy charge with a heavy stun. You then do damage to heavy stunned monsters, and that sort of play style. That's the other way I would think would be the sort of optimal way for warriors to play this league, because obviously they didn't get much unless A lot of their stuff gets buffed when the patch goes live because they're not going to release any of that information until launch based on what they've said. The best way for you to survive campaign is, one, optimize a skill for doing damage, have a secondary skill which sets up that damage. We'll stay on warrior because it's very basic setup. You leap slam, which causes heavy stun with supports and everything like that, and with the tiered supports that might be even better. And because you shouldn't be able to miss with Bone Shatter now, you heavy stun the pack, you Bone Shatter, you clear them. Because a lot of the gems, based on the reveals and stuff, probably won't be until Act 4 plus that you'll get some of the other stuff. If it's earlier, play with it. See if you can get the power out of it early. I'm thinking Bone Shatter, Leap Slam will still be the best way to level. But that sort of setup, you Leap Slam in to cause the stun, you do the stun with another skill. With the Huntress, the Ranger, the Monk, all that, you have a punch him in the face skill that does huge amounts of damage. But you set that skill up with another one like Lightning Rod, Electrocuting Rod, anything like that. That you put something down, either they walk into it and you would set it off, or you jump into them, causing something like a heavy stun. You freeze them, then do another thing that explodes them. It really does require that setup in the especially campaign, having a setup skill and then a punch them in the face skill. Also, 25% res, including chaos, between Act 1, Act 5, Act 1, Act 3, I was thinking Path of Exile 1 for a sec, should allow you to get through the campaign. With specific bosses, Act 1, jack up your cold res. Act 2, jack up lightning res. Act 3, poison lady, jack up chaos res. And Doriani, have a very good all-round elemental basis. And then Act 4 and the interludes, or whatever they called them, pretty much the prologues. By the looks of it, you want some chaos res for sure. Virtually everything was causing poison. So I'm guessing a lot of ailment stuff is going to be in Act 4 and on. So you'll need to get up to about 40% res across the board. Obviously, we don't know the bosses and their stuff, but the Interlude 2 or 3, especially looks like lightning, so it might go off the same basis, cold, lightning, chaos, with all-round elemental as well. So they might stick to the same sort of stuff, but by the time you hit the maps, chaos res try to have it 40%. Elemental res, obviously try to get 75 to 90%. Obviously not max, 75 plus the extra 20-25%, so you don't have to worry about pen and elemental weakness curse type stuff. So you want to try to cap your elemental resistances plus 20-25%. And then the Energy Shield being strong, it didn't necessarily get nerfed. It got tweaked a little, but it's still strong. And if if you go energy shield, you want to do energy shield is your life. Because you want to take chaos inoculation. And if you're not sure, it's up here, there. And it immune to chaos damage and bleeding, which pretty much eliminates a lot of what you got to worry about. The downfall is you need to have a good energy shield basis. So 2k by the end of life. So you want at least 2k energy shield by end of campaign. Obviously, it all depends on what you can get and everything, but the goal you're aiming for is like 2k, 1500, 2k by the end of campaign. If you have the ability to, if you're the witch ascendancy that lets you get more, you could possibly get away with having like 1500 with the overload being 2k plus. You could possibly get away with that. In the end game, you're going towards like 4k, 5, similar BOE 1. You just want big life pool, and that includes the energy shield. Energy shield, treat it like life because it is your life. The damage, I wouldn't worry too much about what your actual tooltip says, because you are doing everything in layers. The actual damage you're doing should be higher than your tooltip says, because you should do something which causes them to take more damage from your other skill, say shock or anything like that. So you automatically start just doing way more damage than your tooltip says. So don't worry about the tooltip. If you're doing enough damage, you're doing enough damage. Don't worry about the tooltip. I would also recommend you not try to mimic and copy streamers that you see playing, because one, you're not going to be able to for the most part. If you're a very experienced player and you can pretty much play along and finish the campaign, Act 1 to 3 campaign in like 4 or 5 hours, and then I assume 4 or 5 hours for the new stuff, but we'll just need to see exactly what's happening. Then you could probably follow along pretty good, but if you're taking 150, 200% more time, then by the time you are even finished Act 1, they're finished Act 2, maybe even halfway through Act 3, and whatever they're doing, you're way behind. And if they buy some cheap thing off trade, 9 times out of 10, that item will be 10 times the price by the time you get there. So have a idea of what you're doing. Follow a guide if you want. I personally am going to try different things. I was going to go warrior. I don't like it anymore as a league start. I just think it's going to be very weak. An important note I will add about the warrior as well: the percent elemental. I'll get the actual wording. I'll bring it over here. These are the cores, but don't worry, it's the wording and all that that matters. The percent of armor also applies to fire damage taken from hits. That is useless. Let me explain, but these are useless as far as mitigating elemental damage from you, because in Path of Exile 2, that damage is taken before resistances, so it's the entire hit. So a 10k hit, you then say you take, it's all fire, 100% fire damage. 30% of that hit, well, 30% of your armor, so if you've got 10k armor, it's 3,000 of your armor mitigates, say a 10,000 hit, it's going to really do a lot of damage, because armor, you need to mitigate 50% of the damage, you need 10 times as much armor as the damage incoming. So this is taken before resistances. Armor is terrible against big hits, it's good against small hits. If it was taken after resistances, so you got 75 fire res, say, you would then have 25% damage left at a smaller value. That is non-fire res mitigated. You would then take huge amount of the damage without even being phased. If it was after the resistances, because it's before resistances, it will still kill you. This is useless if you got a free gear slot, because this is going to be on gear as well. If you got a free stat slot, put it on, or keep it, or whatever, because you can't necessarily just put it on. But do not put these cores in and expect to become more tanky or be able to take bigger hits. It's virtually a useless stat. It won't help. Armor still sucks. The elemental damage after resistances in PoE 1 is why converting everything over works. Because the most optimal, I think fire is the most optimal to try to convert everything into in PoE 1. You can pretty much get down to having to take 10% of a damage, and I think you're not taking really much more than 15, 20k damage before mitigation. So you're only taking like a 2k hit, and generally you got like a 5k health pool by the time you're taking that amount of damage versus the content. So maybe go down to half-life. Maybe. Path of Exile 2, you're dead before the resistances even kick in. So that's why I'm not playing armor. Armor needed a huge buff. It didn't get a buff. Evasion didn't need a buff. It got a buff. And energy shield stay the same, because a lot of the people using are minions, and minion players aren't the biggest minority. They're not a big majority. They are a minority of players that actually play minions. And more than likely, the dex base is going to be meta, because you get free defense with deflection. The shock and all that is just so much more synergetic. And then the cold stuff, if that synergizes just as well as the lightning stuff does, it'll be, oh my goodness, just clearing everything real easy. They'll probably have to either bring it all in very, very, very base level, or nerf it, depending on whether they really care. If it survives 3 days in the league, it won't be nerfed. Unless they go back on their word and say they're not going to nerf anything. I personally wouldn't care, give or take, depending on what the nerf actually is. If they totally destroy the skill I'm using, then obviously I'm going to care. But generally, if it survives 3 days in the league, it is deemed what was intended, not a bug. there has been bugs with Whirlwind that people are doing 1,000% more damage, to the point where one I saw was doing 14 million DPS. They fixed it. They were doing like 2 to 4 million with the fix, and they didn't have any resistances. They had campaign, like Act 3 gear. They just shot through everything because of the stuff, and obviously the bug fixed it. Gas and the explosion in launch had a bug, so they fixed it. Arc wasn't a bug, so it was left. Lightning Spear wasn't a bug, so it stayed there. Whatever survives about 3 days is not a bug and will stay there, so don't worry about something coming in. Obviously, if there's a mid-season patch coming in, maybe they'll change their mind and go, oh, it was a bug, but they'll change the damage, they'll reword the skill, so the whole gem or whatever it is will change. But they shouldn't. That would be going back on their word, and they'll get a bunch of negativity, and that's why they don't nerf stuff mid-league, because they don't want that negativity. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful and gave you some ideas to go for whatever character you're trying to go. The Abyssal stuff, it'll be interesting to see. I don't think it'll be all that impactful, but we haven't seen everything, so can't say for sure. It'll be a good XP farm, probably. But that was a video. Hopefully it was helpful and gave you some direction, and I'll catch you next time in the next video. And I'll probably go the deck side and do some campaign testing with different lightning base, maybe even the frost based stuff, and like try to give little guides or my opinion on how to get through sort of stuff, and like guides slash showcases for that sort of stuff. But I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.